Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. So yesterday we were looking at the third verse in which Krishna was telling Arjuna, anticipating that he might ask, why did you choose to teach me today and not before? And Krishna says, Sa evayam maya tetya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Today, the same ancient yoga has been told to you by me because you are my devotee and my friend. This is indeed a profound secret. The vision of the Veda is that you are Param Brahma and you are the cause of the whole creation. You are not a created being because all of this is also said in the Gita. The Gita is said to be the essence of the Veda. Gaining this knowledge is the sole destiny of human life. Until one has this knowledge, one is bound to a life of samsara, pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, birth and death. The Veda, true to its vision, gives you a twofold way, marga, to accomplish this destination. The destination is gaining the knowledge of the self, being Brahman, a knowledge that is unlike any other knowledge. All knowledge requires a certain preparedness. For the knowledge of oneself, one requires emotional maturity. Mere intellectual accomplishment is not enough for a person to be emotionally mature. For example, the greatest scientist in any discipline of knowledge can be emotionally mature. This person may feel that he or she is not at all respected, not recognized by peers and other members of the society. Such a person can have a lot of regrets and become quite desperate. On the other hand, one may be mature and not be intellectually accomplished. When one is able to live with oneself happily, relatively happily, and when one is naturally contemplative, one's maturity has attained a certain completeness. For such a person, a life of sannyasa, renunciation, is advocated by the Veda, wherein the person is formally and completely released from all previously enjoined duties. The Veda that enjoins various duties also releases you from all of them, providing you with the sanction to live a life of a renunciate so that you can pursue knowledge of the self to the exclusion of every other thing. Or if you need to gain this inner maturity, you can live a life of karma yoga, pursuing the same self knowledge. That the sannyasi pursues. This is the essence of all the Vedas. When the word yoga is used in the Gita, it refers to jnana yoga for a sannyasi and karma yoga for one who is not a sannyasi. Both of these include the pursuit of self-knowledge. Although this knowledge remains in the royal families and with the sages, the people do not necessarily receive it. This point is addressed by Shankara in his introduction to this verse. He says that the knowledge is as though lost when it reaches people whose minds are scattered. Durlab, durbalan ajitendriyan prapya nashtam yogam. Thus, it is lost, nashta, due to the condition of the people, not because it's not available. It reaches people who have no inner strength. Durbala, people who are not together, whose minds are scattered. Ajitendriya. Reaching such people, this yoga also gets scattered, meaning that the knowledge has no hold on them. Therefore, it is as though lost. In this verse, Krishna acknowledges that this knowledge had always existed when he uses the expression sa eva, meaning that yoga alone, that knowledge alone. The twofold knowledge that is never new, puratana. No knowledge is ever new. It is always ancient, perennially eternal. Whatever is discovered may seem new, but in fact, it has always been there. It seems new because no one knew of it before. For example, we did not always know that the sun does not move relative to the earth. Even so, the earth has always traveled around the sun, and the sun has always been stationary relative to the earth. Just one second. So this is a fact that always remains a fact, whether it is known or not. In the same way, this knowledge is something that is puratana, never new, ancient. Knowledge is always as true as the object is. If the Atma is eternal, then knowledge of Atma is equally eternal. Nothing new is created here. The yoga, the knowledge which was initiated by Krishna in the beginning, is eternal, perennially eternal, puratanaha. Two types of eternity. There are two types of eternity: perennial eternity and absolute eternity. Absolute eternity is something that has nothing to do with time and is called paramarthika nityatva. Whereas perennial eternity is that which keeps on coming with every creation, every kalpa, and is called pravaha nityatva. The Veda has pravaha nityatva, being not eternal in the sense of timelessness. Although the knowledge that is the Veda keeps on coming with every creation, it is still time bound. Thus, The Veda is considered to be eternal in the perennial sense only. So I will repeat this paragraph. There are two types of eternity: perennial eternity and absolute eternity. Absolute eternity is something that has nothing to do with time and is called Paramarthika Nityatva. Whereas perennial eternity is that which keeps on coming with every creation, every kalpa, and is called Pravaha Nityatva. The Veda has Pravaha Nityatva, being not eternal in the sense of timelessness. Although the knowledge that is the Veda keeps on coming with every creation, it is still time bound. Thus, the Veda is considered to be eternal in the perennial sense only. Moreover, why had this perennially eternal knowledge not been given to Arjuna before? Krishna had not held it back all along due to lack of enthusiasm, and only today became inspired to talk to Arjuna about it. The only reason Krishna did not teach him earlier was that until today, Arjuna had not asked for this knowledge. As soon as Arjuna asked for it, Krishna teaches him, although they were in the middle of the battlefield. Those who study the Gita usually take some months to study the second and third chapters in which Krishna unfolded the knowledge. But Krishna taught to Arjuna in one day, according to Vyasa's presentation. As Krishna himself says, Te adya proktaha. It was told to you today. After all, it takes only 3 hours to repeat the entire Gita. We must remember also that it is not Krishna who is actually talking in this particular verse form. It is Vyasa. There was no necessity for Krishna to put this knowledge into verse form. Vyasa put Krishna's message in the form of verses as part of the Mahabharata. Being informed enough about the Veda, Vyasa was qualified to present its essence in the Gita. He did not need to have Krishna say anything. Even if Krishna were not there, we would still read Vyasa's Gita, just as we read his Brahma Sutras. Vyasa himself is good enough for us to read because we are reading the Veda, not Krishna or some philosopher like Kant, Schopenhauer, or Hegel. There is no Krishna philosophy. There is only the Veda, the knowledge that comes down to us from the rishis. People often say, having been given some good advice, why did you not tell me this before? I have spent so many sleepless nights over it. In fact, one may not be capable of seeing the wisdom of the advice until sleepless nights have been spent. Arjuna may have felt like chastising Krishna for not giving him this knowledge in the days when they were in the forest and had so much time to sit and talk. Instead, here they were on the battlefield, caught between the two forces and surrounded by all the noise, dust, and confusion of war horses, chariots, elephants, infantry, conches, drums, and orders being bellowed everywhere. Definitely not a very conducive time or place for talking about Vedanta, about the infinite. You should talk about the infinite only when you have infinite time. when you can sit leisurely on the bank of a river with nothing else to do, or when you are retired and no longer have to go to the office. The Pandavas had just returned from 13 years of exile, 12 of which had been spent in the forest. Surely Arjuna must have thought that that would have been the right time for Krishna to teach him. He could have gained this knowledge in those 12 years. 12 years is a good period of time for any knowledge to take place. Even Jupiter, whose influence is said to be important in gaining knowledge, takes 12 years to come back to a given house in the zodiac. It is said that in order to master any discipline of knowledge, you must stay with it for 12 years. Arjuna had had just such a period of time handed to him on a platter. He had had a God sent banishment. So, this is the footnote for Kant, Immanuel Kant, German ideal philosopher, who argued that reason is the means by which the phenomena of experience are translated into understanding. His classic works include the Critique of Pure Reason and Critique of Practical Reason, in which he put forward his system of ethics based on the categorical imperative. Arthur Schopenhauer, German philosopher, who believed that the will to live in the is the fundamental reality, and that this will, being a constant striving, is insatiable and ultimately yields only suffering. And George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, German philosopher, who proposed that truth is reached by a continuing dialectic. His major works include Encyclopedia of the Philosophical Sciences and the Philosophy of Right. So basically, each one had their own theories. So this is not a Krishna theory or a Krishna philosophy. This knowledge is from the Veda, it is eternal. It has the Pravaha Nityatva, the perennial eternity. So there are two eternities, right? Two types of eternities. One is Paramarthika Nityatva and Pravaha Nityatva. So Paramarthika Nityatva is absolute eternity, which is beyond time, whereas Pravaha Nityatva is bound by time. It is not, it is still time bound, but it continues. That is why it is eternal. Just like how samsara is eternal, just like how the world is eternal. The cycle of creation continues for eternity, but this is time bound. Whereas the Paramarthika Nityatva is beyond time.
Hari Om.
Yeah.
This is again like a juggle of words. When we talk about the absolute truth, Sat Chit Ananda, now in any time, any yuga, it remains the same, isn't it?
Correct.
So, for absolute truth, why it is not absolute nityatvam, eternity? Just a small mind question.
No,
Uh, this is in battlefield for Bhagavad Gita very well explained that it was said by Lord Krishna, but then later on revealed by Vedavyasa ji. And through that we are studying. So that is clear. But this absolute truth, how it is perennial reality, that I'm not clear yet.
see, the Veda is only, see, in the third chapter, we learned that the Veda has come from Brahman, right? The Shabda Brahma, Shabda
Yes.
Pramana, that
Hmm.
is the Veda, is an outpouring of Brahman. It has its origin in Brahman. It is eternal, no doubt. It comes through every cycle. It is there in every cycle, but it is time bound. The Veda is only talking about Brahman. The Veda is not Brahman. The Veda is not Satchidananda. It is still Shabda. It is still part of creation. Whereas absolute
Mm.
eternity is that Satchidananda, which is timelessness, which is beyond time.
Okay. Mm.
You see, now Maya, um, or the ignorance and Maya, for instance, they don't have a birth, but they have a death. Once you recognize, once knowledge dawns, there is there is the death of Maya, there is the death of ignorance. Similarly, Veda is nothing but Shabda, right? It's all about Shabda. So that is the penultimate step. You require Veda to know this knowledge, yes, but to gain this knowledge. But at the like the last firewood is put into the homa, this also is put into the homa, and this also disappear. I mean, it vanishes. It is no longer existent for the jnani.
Okay. So the way we leave the soap after the.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Got
After we
it.
wash it off with water,
Yes. Mm.
that aham brahmasmi, once that
Mm.
state is achieved, that tattvamasi is required for you to go to that aham brahmasmi. And when you're there in that aham brahmasmi, that's it. There is nothing else.
Mm.
The Veda also does not have its significance.
Correct. Okay. Understood. Thank you
But
so much, sir.
having said that, the Veda continues. It is not something that has that it will flow. That continuity is there. That pravaha nityatva is there. But there is another eternity which is absolute. That is the paramarthika nityatva.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It is like our daily sleep. No, every day we sleep. We we go through the three different states of Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. So it is as though in Sushupti, it is like we are in total bliss, deep sleep state. There's only, you experience bliss, just that you do not realize that you are bliss. So when you wake up, you say, oh, I've had such a great sleep. And the cycle continues. So this is a cycle that will continue as long as there is prana in the body. And then this creation again happens. For a while, you're waiting for the right womb to happen, to take birth again. So the cycle of samsara is has this pravaha nityatva. So everything that is anatma has pravaha nityatva. Atma alone has paramarthika nitya. From that paramarthika nityatva, everything comes. The reason why Veda has said it is time bound, although we can't put a date for Veda when it started, we cannot really give it a date of birth, but it does have an end date. I think in chapter 2, I think, right? Um, what is the use of Veda for a person who has gained this wisdom? The example given was, what is the use of a pond when there is water everywhere? So for that person who is enlightened, Veda does not make is there's no need for him.
That Apuryamanam Machala, that shloka?
No, before that, when Yada te moha kalilam buddhif, it says Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti manishinaha vedavadarata partha nanyadastiti vadinaha kamatmana swargaparaha. um,
The Udapani, something like that.
Yeah, Yavanudapan. Yeah, very
Mm.
good.
Mm.
Yeah. Yavanudapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. So, like there is no when there is so much of water flooding, the pond loses its significance. There is absolute knowledge. So the enlightened person is reveling in that absolute knowledge. No more relative. And remember, the Veda addresses the doer, addresses the karta. So here the person
But
is
when you say two types of eternity,
mm,
that one is Paramatma, Paramatmatika,
paramarthika
and then the Pravaha, Nityatva.
pravah.
Is that the two?
Yeah,
Okay. So perennial eternity and then the absolute eternity.
absolute eternity.
I see. So perennial is like us, generation to generation. Is that
Correct.
how it works? Yeah.
Yeah, that is one way. That is a
Mm.
physical creation that keeps happening.
Right.
Even Veda is slotted under the Pravaha Nityatva.
Mm.
See, although the knowledge that is the Veda keeps on coming with every creation, it is still time bound.
फटी तो आई नहीं अभी कर ले शेयर कर दी ना सब
So, thus the Veda is considered to be eternal in the perennial sense only. Moreover, why had not this eternal, perennially eternal knowledge been given to Arjuna before? Reason was he did not ask for it. It is given only when it is asked. Although it was given in the battlefield. And Swamiji very beautifully said, students who study the Gita study the second and third chapters for several months. But all of this was just given in one day. The Bhagavad Gita and the 700 verses were put down by Vyasa, Vyasa's presentation. And it actually takes about 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours to recite the whole of the Gita. So Krishna, there was no necessity for Krishna to put this knowledge into verse form. Vyasa put that into Krishna's message into the form of verses as part of the Mahabharata. So we would still read Vyasa's Gita because Vyasa was enough acquainted with the Vedas and he knew enough about the Vedas. Just as he has put up the Brahma Sutras. And then Vyasa himself is good enough for us to read because we are reading the Veda, not Krishna or some other philosopher. So it is not Krishna's philosophy. Krishna himself says, this knowledge I've given to Vivaswan way back. So it is not his philosophy. It is the philosophy that is already there. So So there's explanation about why it was not given in the 12 years. There was so much of time. You should this thing about you should talk about the infinite only when you have infinite time. That is part of the argument why it was not given to Arjuna before in the 12 years of banishment, right? Because you had all the time, but there was no need. He did not have that urge, that um, the the longing for this knowledge was not there. So until and unless that is there, the teacher will not teach.
But then they talk about this guru time and all that, right? The Baj, where somewhere I read you read it.
What about?
The Jupiter
Ha
comes
ha,
once in 20
correct,
years, and then it has to be in your home or
correct.
something like that. Yeah, to gain
Yeah,
the knowledge.
correct. So
Mm,
12 years is a good period of time for any
right.
knowledge to take place. Even
Mm,
Jupiter, that is Guru, whose influence is said to be important in gaining knowledge, takes 12 years to come back to a given house in the zodiac. It is said that in order to master any discipline of knowledge, you must stay with it for 12 years.
mm,
Arjuna had had just such a period handed down to him. That was the 12 years of banishment, right?
mm,
Vanavasa. 12 years of Vanavasa he had.
right.
That was when Krishna should have said to him, please sit down and listen to me. I have something to tell you. You
Mm,
grieve for those who should not be grieved. Ashocyan and Vashochastvam and so on. But that
mm,
didn't happen then. It happened in the middle of the din of the battlefield with all the conches and drums and, confusion, orders being given out. And it's so chaotic in the middle of the battlefield. That is because that Arjuna surrendered to him. He surrendered to Krishna, said, I am so confused. Please help me. Show me the way. Self-knowledge is the greatest secret. In response to Arjuna's unspoken question about why Krishna did not teach him when the surroundings were more conducive, Krishna says in this verse that this particular knowledge is a secret, rahasya, and not an ordinary secret at that. The word Upanishad also has taken on the meaning of secret, self knowledge being the ultimate secret among all secrets. Uttamam rahasyam. Even if you share it with someone 100 times, that person may still ask the question, what is Atma? There are two types of secrets. One is a secret that is kept away from you, not because it is something that you cannot understand, but because it is kept away from your perception, from your ears and eyes. You are kept from coming to know of it by something other than yourself. The other type of secret is seen by you. It is available to be known by you, but still you do not understand. Therefore, it remains rahasya. The Vedanta rahasya is both. For want of Vedanta, the truth of yourself remains a secret. But then, even when Vedanta is available, it remains a secret for want of preparedness on the part of the listener. It's very beautiful, right? So, there are two types of secrets. This self knowledge is the ultimate secret, is the greatest secret. That is why in the Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga, it's called a Guhya, it's called a secret. In response to Arjuna's unspoken question about why Krishna did not teach him when the surroundings were more conducive, Krishna says in this verse that this particular knowledge is a secret. Rahasyam hetaduttamam. That's what he says, right? So, this secret, and not an ordinary secret at that. The word Upanishad also has taken on the meaning of secret, self knowledge being the ultimate secret among all secrets. Uttamam rahasyam. Even if you share it with someone 100 times, that person may still ask the question, what is Atma? See, like all of us, no, we have been reading, we've been learning, but we still, I do wish that all of us, gain, recognize our true nature. Sooner or later, that will of course happen, but we still have, what is the Atma? Do we still know the Atma as it is to be known? There are two types of secrets. One is a secret that is kept away from you, not because it is something that you cannot understand, but because it is kept away from your perception, from your ears and eyes. You are kept from coming to know of it by something other than yourself. The other type of secret is seen by you. It is available to be known by you, but still you do not understand. Therefore, it remains rahasya. The Vedanta rahasya is both. For want of Vedanta, the truth of yourself remains a secret. But then, even when Vedanta is available, it remains a secret for want of preparedness on the part of the listener. So why is Vedanta both, Vedanta Rahasya, both types of secrets? Because for one who is not even exposed to Vedanta, it is a secret. But for one who is already exposed to the Vedanta, it still remains a secret until and unless they are prepared for it. So all our sadhana is to prepare the ground, prepare the mind, that Shuddha for the Antakarana Shuddhi and Antakarana Naischalya. Once that is done, and this constant punaha coming back to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, then when there is that enough preparedness, knowledge will reveal itself. Knowledge is always there. It is just that it is not recognized. That is why it remains a rahasya.
Can you read that paragraph again? And if the people are not exposed to Vedanta, will not it be open to them? Is it the primary requirement that they are exposed to the Vedanta only, then they will understand it? Because the first two sentences are very different.
Yeah. Unless they are exposed to the Vedanta, Shabda Brahma, Shabda Pramana, how are they going to um, know about, recognize the Atma, right? They will continue to reel in, they will just eat, sleep, make merry, and die. And they continue this cycle. It will copy paste every janma. Why is there such echo? 1 second. Huh? So I'll read that paragraph again. 1 second. Where did I go? So there are two types of secrets. One is a secret that is kept away from you, not because it is something that you cannot understand, but because it is kept away from your perception, from your ears and eyes. See, for that matter, any secret that someone keeps away from you is a secret, right? Normal, regular secrets that we deal with in day-to-day life. That is, it is kept away. Not that you can't understand, but that is kept away from your perception. Same thing with Vedanta. You are kept from coming to know of it by something other than yourself. The other type of secret is seen by you. It is available to be known by you, but still you do not understand. Therefore, it remains Rahasya. The Vedanta Rahasya is both. For want of Vedanta, the truth of yourself remains a secret. But then, even when Vedanta is available, it remains a secret for want of preparedness on the part of the listener. The reality revealed is that fine? Or should I go on?
Yes, please. But what I wanted to know means you cannot know yourself, means you as a Atma other than yourself. So even if the knowledge is Vedanta is available or not, this secret can be opened up by other things also. That was my question. सो वेदांत वाक्य वो ठीक है इवन यू हैव टू meditate on that four mahavakya five mahavakyas that is also okay but that is the process of knowing you are as a atma is it required that vedanta only I was asking.
Yeah, Vedanta is the way because you remember in the beginning we learned the
Hmm.
different types of pramanas, means
Hmm.
of knowledge.
Hmm.
So, how would you know unless you have a means of knowledge?
Hmm.
Now we are
Correct.
exposed to
Hmm.
Vedanta, so we're talking.
Hmm.
But supposing there is a person who is not exposed to Vedanta at all, how would he or she recognize the very fact that it's Atma and Anatma? The very concept of Atma Anatma comes to you from Vedanta, from the Veda. So
Hmm.
one is not exposed to this at all. How
Maybe
is
in the
one?
previous lifetimes also he may be exposed. That's why the when children get born or after some 4 5 years, they also feel like that, no?
Yeah. So at some point it has happened. No, it is not like it
Hmm.
is not. So without
Hmm.
this pramana, without Shabda pramana, there is no knowledge. You cannot. So knowledge is required, and knowledge is there, and there needs to be a means of knowledge to gain this. And we understood that Shabda Pramana is what takes us to this knowledge. And therefore, the reason for us to follow the Sampradaya, this Advaita Sampradaya, which talks about Advaita.
Correct.
That is why, and the steps given are Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. So all this requires, see, you require that inner maturity. Preparedness is required for this knowledge to be revealed. It just does not just happen like that. What you're talking of, some little boy, a child who gets enlightened, is because of his Purva Janma. He has done a lot of sadhana, and that is culminated in him getting realized in this life. But at some point, he has been exposed to it.
Okay, thank you.
It is not like it will just happen, right? There needs to be a
Hmm.
means of knowledge. So, the reality revealed by Vedanta is not easy to understand by those who are conditioned into thinking that they are useless and limited, a conviction that is often confirmed by everyone around them. If a person who thinks in this way is told that he or she is Satya, Jnana, Ananta, Sarvakarana, Purna, and so on, the person will become totally confused. He or she will have a new problem. If I am Satya, why do I feel so useless? I must be even more useless than I thought. This new problem is also brought about because the Atma is not easy to understand. It is a rahasya. It is a uttamam rahasya. Uttama rahasya. This knowledge can be misunderstood as well, which is why it was generally kept away from the majority of people. Moreover, even if it is made available, it is not understood. For example, those who study the Veda and are able to recite it, including the Upanishads, do not usually understand what they are reciting. For such people, the words revealing the truth are available, but not the knowledge thereof. Therefore, it is Uttama Rahasya, the greatest secret. Thus, either due to its non availability or due to non understanding, the knowledge remains Uttama Rahasya, the ultimate secret.
Gurudev used to say, no, there are how many rahasya? Death and means birth, and this one is the third rahasya. Then
Yeah, Atma Jnana is a Rahasya.
three rahasyas are there. No, Gurudev used to tell.
Janana Rahasya, Marana Rahasya.
Rahasya. Only
And
two.
Karma is also a Rahasya.
Rahasya.
See, which is why, although we have been learning and studying the Gita, I suppose it is all everybody's experience, my experience at least. And I come back to square one. I'm still bound by the same patterned behavior, right? I know that there is Atma is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. But have I recognized that I am that? I'm still far from that.
Because it is only cleansing that cleansing is happening with
Yeah,
the knowledge.
correct. So, Shanaihi, little by little, little by little, you have to stick on, stay on. That is why in Sadhana Panchakam it said, Vedo Nityamadhiyatam. Study the Veda every day, regularly. Because this is two things. One, non-availability, and second is non-understanding. Non-availability is the first type of secret. Like, it is not available to your perception. Someone who is not even exposed to Vedanta. Someone who is not even aware that Vedanta is available. The second is where they know about Vedanta, they're exposed to it, they're studying it, but still, due to non understanding, it still remains a secret. This knowledge should only be given to one who wants to know. In Arjuna's case, the knowledge was not given to him because Krishna knew that Arjuna was not
Actually,
interested in.
first secret is because you cannot perceive it with the eyes and ears. And
Yeah.
second is with the knowledge, means without getting the knowledge from Vedanta or not understanding.
Yeah. See, there are so many people out there who don't even know about the Bhagavad Gita, or at least they've heard about it, but they don't. That's all they know. Same with the Upanishads. How much knowledge do we have about the Upanishads? The knowledge base is so huge. What we know of it is very little, minuscule. So a major part of the Vedanta is still unknown to us, right? But we know that there is Vedanta. We've approached it. But having approached it, having being on the path and studying studying it. Have we really understood? That is why in the second chapter, I think when Krishna talks about the Atma, he says, Ascharyavat paschati kaschidenam, Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah, Ascharyavat chaina manyashrunoti, Shrutva vedana chaiva kaschit. So he says, people, how is this Atma spoken of? It's as a wonder. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschiden. It is seen as a wonder, it is heard as a wonder. And then ultimately it's a wonder of wonders that in spite of listening to it, some people still do not understand it. Which puts all of us in that slot. We all are hearing about it, we are all learning about it. But I would not talk about the others. I'm talking about myself. I still have not recognized it. So that is also a wonder. This knowledge should be given only to one who wants to know. In Arjuna's case, the knowledge was not given to him because Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in it before. Even if he had taught him, the knowledge would not have meant anything to Arjuna. Such knowledge should only be given to someone who wants to know. Unless a person recognizes that there is a problem, it is useless to offer a solution. We can give the person a hint by saying that there is a fundamental problem that he or she does not recognize. However, only when the person recognizes that there is a problem is the solution of any interest to him or her. Arjuna also had to recognize that there was a problem. He had been brought up in a certain way at a time when Vyasa and Shuka were household names. Such people were always walking in and out of the palaces where Arjuna, his brothers, and their cousins were growing up. Naturally, then, Arjuna had had many opportunities to hear about this knowledge, but as a prince, he was concerned with acquiring the skills, accomplishments, and laurels of a prince, all of which were good and necessary also. Even during his 12-year exile, Arjuna's main concern was the acquisition and maintenance of missiles and various skills in order to win back the kingdom. For Arjuna, this was a one-pointed commitment, ekagrata, an obsession. Therefore, he had neither the time nor the interest to pursue this knowledge. Now, in the battlefield, all his other interests melted away. Even his accomplishments appeared useless to him because he saw they were all meant only for destruction. Arjuna had lived a life of dharma. He had the necessary viveka to be able to distinguish between right and wrong. He also had compassion, because of which, when he saw how destructive the battle would be, he no longer wanted to fight. So he had what? He had viveka. He was living a life of dharma. He had viveka as well as compassion. He was like a boxer who trains himself for the world championship. For 6 months, every day, all day, he runs, eats the proper food, exercises, works out with punching bags, and wears out several sparring partners as well. He also spends $500,000 to achieve his end. On the day when the bout is about to take place, he climbs into the ring, applauded by the enthusiastic fans that have come to watch. Then, looking at his opponent, he suddenly becomes sympathetic and walks out. This may be the proper thing to do, but his opponent is not going to see it this way. Instead, he will brag. The poor fellow took one look at me and ran away. Everyone else, including his own manager, will say the same thing. And his opponent will become the champion by default. This was Arjuna's problem exactly. He did not want to fight, not out of fear, but out of compassion. Naturally, then, he had to decide whether he should fight or not. He was cornered, so to speak, and had to make a decision. We'll stop here today. Any sharing? So there are two types of eternity, right? Paramarthika Nityatva and Pravaha Nityatva. And then there are two types of secrets. One is because of non-exposure to, because it's out of your perception. It is not given to you in your, it does not come to your perception at all. The second is out of non-understanding. You're exposed to it, but you're still not able to understand. Therefore, it remains a rahasya. And why was Arjuna not given this knowledge before? When he had all those 12 years, he had infinite time, nothing to do in the forest. They were just banished. Why it was not given? Because he did not recognize a problem. Only when someone recognizes a problem, that they have a problem, can you give a solution, right? So we'll stop here. And Arjuna had three things. He was living a life of dharma. He had viveka between right and wrong. He knew what right and wrong is. He knew what dharma is. All the first chapter, he talks about so much of dharma. And then, most importantly, he had compassion.
And
We'll take,
also, he was Anasuya. He did not
yeah,
find fault with others.
correct. And he did not find fault with Krishna's teaching. He had questions, but he did not find fault. He says, as though you're confusing me. Your knowledge is as though confusing. He says, you're not confusing. He didn't say you're confusing me. Right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.